Welcome back. The board of directors of TrustCo are considering options to delist the company from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the Namibian Stock Exchange, and the OTCQX Market in the United States. Now, this is as per the shareholder request. To shed some light on this, we are joined by the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the TrustCo, or rather of TrustCo, Quinton Zandre van Rooyen. A very good evening to you, Quinton. Thank you very much for joining us on Business Today.
Morris, thanks a lot for having me.
Getting straight into it, Quinton, what prompted TrustCo to consider delisting the company from all the current exchanges?
Well, first, I'll take you back a little bit. We made an announcement November last year that we have started with the listing process on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange in the US, and the natural process following from that is to delist from all the current exchanges.
Right. Now, we do understand, if you've been following the media and all other reports, that you had a couple of run-ins with the JSE, especially looking at issues as accounting battles that you faced with them. Could you tell us how that ended and what that looked like?
Yeah, certainly, Morris. We had a clash of opinions on audit treatment of transactions with the JSE, our audit team together with their experts. Ultimately, we went to the highest courts in South Africa. They gave us direction. The courts ruled how these transactions had to be handled. We put them to book, had the restatements done, and that was the end of it. Right.
Now, we do also understand that TrustCo is looking at delisting from the local stock exchange, the Namibian Stock Exchange, international stock exchanges, the JSE, and the OTCQX Market. How will this impact and affect the business moving forward?
So on a business operational level, it won't have a much impact. For shareholders, it will have a massive impact. One has to ask a question, when we listed initially in 2006, the net asset value of the group was roughly 70 million Namibian dollars. Fast forward 20 years later, the group is sitting with a net asset value of 1.3 billion Namibian dollars. And the share price and the market cap has simply not followed suit. So one does have to ask yourself, is the company listed in the right capital market for what we're trying to achieve? So ultimately, we're trying to create value for shareholders, and that has not happened on the current exchanges where we are. So moving the listing to a different exchange, that is a way to enhance shareholder value. It's a natural hedge against the US dollar and the exchange rate fluctuations.
Based on that, the assumption is, and conventional wisdom will dictate that, then the delisting will have a positive impact to shareholder value.
Yeah, so certainly shareholders must now make their informed choice, right? The company will go through a process. There will be an independent fairness expert appointed. They will put a value on an offer. The company will make an offer to shareholders, and the shareholders can make a decision at that point in time. Do they take some value now and exit the share? Do they stay in the share and go along for the ride all the way to the US?
We can also then additionally assume, have an assumption model, as it were, looking at some of the anticipated impacts that this delisting will have on the company, and of course looking at the future plans. How would this then impact what TrustCo is currently doing, but most importantly, what you will be doing within the next medium to long term?
So the immediate effect will be post-delisting, a reduction in compliance cost and the burden that comes with that, the ease of implementing transactions that we are busy with, and then ultimately the move to the US is to continue our capital raising efforts. We've had a really good time. The first 10 years we were on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We've raised an excess of 4 billion Namibian dollars or South African rands for the company, which enabled a lot of growth opportunities for us, acquisitions, spurred from that everything. So the strategy or the plan is to list NASDAQ, US side, continue with the capital raise, and continue building the business.
Right. I just want to emphasize that point. So you are delisting from the three right now that you are listed on to list on the NASDAQ.
Yeah, absolutely. For a shareholder to be stuck in a private space, coming from a listed space, you will be a little bit stuck with your shares. So absolutely, the intention and the plans of the company is to go list on the NASDAQ.
Are there any specific reasons that motivated listing on the NASDAQ or considering the listing on the NASDAQ?
Yeah, certainly, Morris. So we've got over time, we've built quite a substantial US shareholder base. We have roughly a third of our shareholders consist of US shareholders. And one must consider the fact, 1% of the capital markets is in Africa.
Right.
60% of all the capital worldwide is available in the US. So you want to be in a market where there's freely capital available.
Right. you know, unless you've been living under a rock the last couple of years, one would have been informed or noticed of a lot of the successes that TrustCo has been making as a company. You know, could you elaborate on some of the successes that the company has enjoyed whilst being listed on the three that you are delisting right now?
Yeah, Myanmar for sure. Like I mentioned previously, we had an exceptionally good ride on the JSE. The number one reason why any company would go list on any stock exchange and go through the pain of all the compliance and the announcements that goes with it is to raise capital and to provide an exit for your shareholders. We've raised tremendous amounts of capital. This has enabled us to inquire and develop the property portfolios, the resources portfolios, the insurance businesses, the education business that we have in Namibia here in our own backyard. Right. So the capital raising has been exceptionally well, but post-COVID it has literally dried up.
Right. Now, is the listing on the Nasdaq industry specific or sector specific?
Yeah, we will fall into an industry, either financial or in the financial services division. Right. What the exact industry will be, we'll see with the SEC filing and the F1, they will categorize it at that point in time.
Right. We are of the understanding, and I think it's you know, it's a conventional wisdom that every business has its ebb and flow of life, as it were. You know, there are some challenges that any corporate of your size would face. If it's okay, what are some of the challenges you have faced as a company?
Morris, if I can think of a lot of them, right?
Yeah, we'll be here all night.
We'd be here all night, but then we've also had some good ones.
Of course.
But certainly if I can think back recent memory, you know, the slowdown in the pace at which transactions and implementation of executive business took place has really hampered the business. It is as if in the last 5 to 6 years, the corporate world have just taken a different view on how at the quick and the pace at which they implement transactions. That has really hamstrung us. That has really forced us to make, you know, some difficult decisions and move away from traditional industries that we thought were really good.
Right. Quinton, before I let you go, you know, listing on the Nasdaq, ideally, what would the best case scenario look like for you guys and the group moving forward?
Best case scenario, we list, we get a proper valuation of our share price, we can return some of the lost values to our shareholders that we've lost over the last 5 years, and we continue with our capital raising exercise.
Right. Quinton, we'll definitely be paying attention and watching you and the TrustCo group as you on this endeavor of listing on the Nasdaq, and of course your future plans and activities.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being on the show. That was the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of TrustCo, Quinton Zandre van Rooyen. Business Today continues in a moment. We'll be right back.